The other thing that's fundamentally important is to take a time out for safety. When you have an accident, that's what you do. Well, our industry and their respective companies, I know we have in ours, have done that. We've taken a time out for safety. The government has to some extent. They went and inspected all the 33 other deep water rigs that were out there. You probably heard about that. What you didn't hear about were the results of that. That inspection of all those rigs found 4 infractions. And to give you an example of one of the 4, I don't remember what all 4 of them were, but one of them was the eye washer fluid that was there to rinse your eyes at it to get exposed to something had an expired expiration date on it. Those rigs are all ready to get back to work. Those companies have taken this time out for safety. Those companies reviewed their well plans. I can tell you, management has put their own people through the grill to be sure and convince them that they can drill this well safely. And we believe we can. We don't think there's any reason to continue this moratorium whatsoever. It's a highly improbable event to begin with. If you look at the industry's track record, the last major offshore blowout was in 1969, 40 years ago in Santa Barbara. Yet the administration felt that we needed to take a time out, and they created this moratorium. And they talk about it being a moratorium in the deep water. That when they lost the first court case, they changed the definition, but it was effectively the same thing. But the fact of the matter is there's a de facto moratorium in the shallow waters as well because they're not issuing permits. They've created these hurdles that are so difficult to get over, they're just not issuing the permits. I know of one for sure that's been issued. I think there may be 2. Congressman may be a little more up to date on that, but the fact is they're just not issuing permits. So there's a de facto moratorium. Catherine kidded about an energy czar. Well, there is an energy czar. It's Carol Bragger. You don't see much of her. But essentially, the Department of Interior, the Department of Energy, and the EPA report into her, and she's got the last word into Obama's ear about energy policy and environmental policy. Now, the moratorium, well, we believe initially we should do what we did on our own, take a time out for safety, is not something that needs to continue, but is having and will continue to have what we believe are devastating impacts, at a minimum on the Gulf Coast states in the short run, on jobs, on economic well-being, but in the long run will have an impact throughout the country. Because the ultimate impact of economic well-being in the Gulf Coast spreads itself, multiplies, a domino effect throughout the country. But also the supply of oil and the supply of natural gas will ultimately decline from what's produced in America. And what does that mean? We're just going to import more. You think, oh, Hugo Chavez is going to, oh, sure, what do you need? You think President Ahmadinejad is going to say, sure, what do you need? We're going to import it from states like that who are not countries that we can rely on, not countries we want to send our wealth to. We'd much rather have jobs in America, producing America's resources, spreading that economic well-being across this country. And it's not just the oil and gas industry. There are tremendous supporting jobs that affect every well that's been drilled. And then the people that work in these jobs, whether the offshore workers who actually are out on the rigs, whether it's the food service companies that supply the food to the rigs, whether it's the helicopter companies or boat companies that transport goods, services, and people out there, all come home to Louisiana and Texas, and that's where they spend their money. That's where they go to the movies, that's where they go out to dinner, that's where they go to the local restaurant, hamburger stand, and take their laundry. It is that economic well-being that multiplies through the communities across the Gulf Coast states that we just don't have. And these Gulf Coast states, particularly Louisiana, are already being devastated because of the lost business in some of their natural industries like fishing and tourism. A good friend of mine just spent a week in Destin, Florida. Last week, and said the beaches there are pristine. Would you know that if you watch TV? Not at all. But they're pristine. And Destin's a wonderful place, and it's beautiful today. But the tourism is suffering because both the moratorium and then the publicity surrounding it. You know, on that handout, there's a recent study that just came out last week. IHS Global Insight did it. They actually took a look at what would be the impact if independents, companies like ours, were excluded from the Gulf of Mexico. And some of the policies they're talking about will absolutely do that. We can talk about that if we have time. But if you look at last year's numbers, so this is what it could be next year if you actually have a little bit higher. Over 200,000 jobs would have been lost in 2009 if independents were excluded from the Gulf of Mexico. Almost 300,000 in 2015 and over 300,000 in 2020. One of the other things many people don't know, if you look at the U.S. Treasury, where does the U.S. Treasury get most of its money? Income taxes, right. Where do they get the second largest component of their money?
Royalties.
The oil and gas industry. Oil and gas revenues, primarily from royalties and lease bonuses, provide the second largest source into the U.S. Treasury. And the potential loss of tax and royalty revenue to the federal government, had it been last year, is over $7 billion. 2015 would be $10 billion. Almost $10 billion in 2020. So that's roughly $10 billion a year for the next 10 years, $100 billion. Because you're not developing our country's resources. You know, one of the interesting things about this debate that's always kind of been interesting to me, those of you that might have been involved in international business can appreciate this, but most countries around the world actually hire marketing people or business development people and come over here and encourage and entice companies like ours, please come over and drill in our country. Develop our resources. They want you there. The partnership between government and industry is a partnership. It's not adversarial. What we have today with our government is an adversarial relationship between business, the private sector, and government.
Amen.
That's not what government is about. Government's there to promote the economy, to promote job growth, to work with businesses, to make this a better place to live and a better place for us to raise our children. What are we doing about it? And Catherine asked me to talk about what you do about it. You're doing it to begin with. More than anything else, grassroots support makes the biggest difference. There is nothing better than going to your congressman's office in his home district when he's home on recess, he or she, and talking to them about policies in Washington and what you believe they need to be in order to promote the economy in your district. There's nothing more important, or should be nothing more important, than real jobs in that member's district. And so what we need are people that are energized, that are active, that are educated, that want to understand the facts, that want to be involved. I talked a little about the forest through the trees, and I talked a little bit about the big rocks. You know, to some extent, going and meeting them this month may be a little rock, but where the big rocks come in is November.
That's right.
We really got to get people in Washington, whatever party they are, that understand that the relationship between government and private sector needs to be a partnership, working together to make this country great like it can do. And we need to put people in Washington who believe that. And it's not just within your district, it's throughout the country. And so what I would ask you to do is look throughout the country